My definition is anything under 18. If you're under
That's
18,
exactly
you're a
what a child is.
Yeah, I think that is a great line in the sand. If you are under 18, you are a child.
Your scenario earlier was if a 16 and a 21-year-old, both parties were if the father was okay with it, the mother was okay with it, why not? Tell me a reason why that's wrong. Because you're
one
getting
is a child, one is not a child. That's the point.
Do you believe that somebody can go through hormone therapy? Can they change their gender if they're a child?
I think that's totally fine as long as everyone is consenting, as you agree with.
Okay, so as long as everyone...
If your parents are okay with it and you are okay with it, I think that's totally a familial decision to make, yeah.
Okay.
So YouTube Jesus actually lost the debate, and who could have seen this one come? Ended up going to this debate or conversation or discussion, whatever you want to call it, with Sneako of all people, which everybody could have seen that this wasn't going to go well.
As you agree with.
Okay.
At all. So Charlie says some very questionable things. Sneako says some very questionable things. You know, Sneako, you know, extraordinaire with the weirdest and just borderline pedophilic takes on certain things, right?
I'm talking about your personal beliefs. Do you think someone in their 20s should be able to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
To someone in their 20s should be, I mean, I personally wouldn't do it. I don't know many people who would do it. The maturity for people and the teenagers in the West is getting much worse, but there are...
We're talking globally. Let's just talk globally. Like, do you think it is okay for... And I'm not talking about just you specifically anymore. Anyone. Do you think it's okay for anyone in their 20s, an adult, to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
A 21-year-old, if there was a marriage where the father consented and the daughter consented, and it was both good on both families and they wanted to do it, why am I going to get involved? Why should we get the government involved?
Well,
why would I tell them if everybody's consenting, if everybody's okay with it, if the parents are okay with it, if nobody's being harmed, if it's going to be okay, if they're both abiding by the rules and they're not hurting each other, why not?
But they're still, like, they're at best a sophomore in high school. They can't consent to something like that. Like, do you...
I'll not just take a second to let you know how, like, this entire thing went down the shitter. Okay, so we got how it starts off, as per usual, as you would know or think. The Sneako versus Moist shit starts with Sneako arguing the age of consent, because of course he is. However, you can look at this as like a 5D chess move from Sneako, the cuck himself. Is he leading Moist to a certain direction? Moist goes ahead and he doesn't think that a 16-year-old marrying a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old or whatever with the parents' consent is okay. Fair enough, that's a decent take. But then it gets bad, because then he decides to say that somebody under the age of 18 is allowed to have a transition if them and the parents sign off on it.
So as long as everyone...
If your parents are okay with it and you are okay with it, I think that's totally a familial decision to make, yeah.
Okay, so a child can cut their off and take hormone blockers and change their biology forever, but they can't get married?
Oh, that's a decision that now extends beyond the family, because now you're bringing in a different party. So if you have someone that's your age coming in saying, I want to marry that child, I don't think that can happen under any circumstance.
So,
no.
But it's still a personal decision. You're still deciding.
Because there's
take the other party out of the equation.
It's
a personal decision. If I'm 16 and I personally want to marry this girl, she's beautiful. She's 21 years old. Her family wants to do it. My family wants to do it. You're saying I can't do that. We're both consenting. I'm ready to go. I'm physically mature, but I'm not allowed to marry because Moist says that woman's a pedophile. But if then the next day I leave it, I'm depressed. I want to cut my. I can go right into the clinic, snip it off, and start taking HRT like Chris Tyson. That's a society that makes sense to you?
It is. I believe everyone has I believe everyone has the right to do with their body what they want to do.
I'm gonna play a little bit of Charlie's cope following this shit show, but only a guy like fucking Sneako, the guy that supports pedophilia, can get a dunk on YouTube Jesus apparently. What a freaking bizarre timeline we're living in, bro. Like, this should have never happened. And then the cope that immediately followed while Charlie is just in a corner trying to gather his thoughts. He was another one of these YouTubers that was sniffing his own fumes, because if you pay attention to what he's saying, he's very confused. Why? The main takeaway was his stance on transition and why people are not deflecting and focusing more on Sneako the pedophile. It's kind of funny, really, because it's telling of Charlie's character, although people are going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say because he's a nice guy, blah 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 blah. Well, the last nice guy we knew ended up running a con that fucked over a bunch of people, and that was Mr. Beast. So it's always the nice guys you gotta be wary of. But yeah, in Moist's little cope fest that he had shortly after losing to Sneako, can't believe I had to say that with a straight face, he goes on to panic about his own followers questioning his questionable take and how it doesn't really make sense. Because really, if you look at it, both scenarios put kids in danger. Sneako doesn't want to put kids in danger, but he's putting up a scenario to where an adult can prey on a kid. Moist claims to care about the children, yet he's saying that the children should be able to make a life-altering decision that's going to mess with them forever. Both horrible freaking takes. Not even people like Mutahar, who are very close friends with Charlie, can actually defend him from this. And in fact, he calls it outright stupid, and rightfully so. Well, now it's time to play a little bit of the Moist cope. I think this is just fucking hilarious, so I'll just let it play.
You can get therapy, you can go through the process of making that decision. I thought that's what it was. I thought he was just speaking in hyperbole with the off shit. I thought that's what we were talking about. And then if you decide that's the path you want to take, it is your body, you can do that. You can make that decision once you become of age to make a decision like that. I just don't understand how it got so muddled. Half of the fucking conversation was hyperbole, and apparently that one was literal. Or it's a very malicious attack on what I'm trying to say, or misunderstanding. I don't know. I don't know. But I think I'm just going to call it there. Alright. Take it easy. Have a good night. See ya.
Again, it's bizarre that Moist lost to this cuck pedophile, but apparently he lost to this cuck pedophile. It was very clear what Sneako Cucko was asking, point blank. This entire thing of hyperbole is a joke, and it is a cope. It's MoistCritikal scrambling and shocked that you can't overlook the stupidity he said of 9-year-olds getting surgery. I didn't specifically say that. Yes, we know what he actually said. He said, if you're under the age of 18, you can make that decision. What does that imply? But again, losing to a cuck pedophile has got to be the worst thing ever. I can only hope that there's enough positive reinforcement and positive PR and enough cuckold influencers that don't talk about this and let Moist just get away with this take, not make a big deal about it like they would any other trivial matter that they feel safe to do so on. I think that Moist was going and banking on the whole I can do this, try this PR stunt to try to keep my fan base happy or stay as politically correct as I possibly can, and it'll be overshadowed by the fact that people hate Sneako more than me. Because that's what he did he reported fake news about Sniper Wolf in that one video. Oh yeah, I remember that happened. Although, if something bad happens to somebody that universally isn't really liked, typically people aren't gonna care. Like, there was very clearly fake news being spread about Sniper Wolf by Charlie. Misinformation, if you will. Nobody cared because after it was proven that Charlie was full of shit and lying, people were like, oh, well, it's Sniper Wolf, so she deserves it. The goalpost got shifted from Charlie being a liar and lying bad to, well, Sniper Wolf deserved it anyway, in order to defend Charlie. Unfortunately, there's no defense for this unless you really are a leftist, radical, libtard, weirdo, freak that probably hinges on the cusp of being Chris Tyson themselves. So yeah, very bad take by Moist. Even some of his normal fans are calling him out on it. Again, Mutahar couldn't really save him, called it a fucking stupid thing. But it's really funny though, because I think this particular thing aged pretty poorly in the midst of this entire thing.
This Twitter account, okay, you, whoever the You are. You signal boosted a public allegation against Critical, which implies that he's covering for some kind of groomer because they're trans. That's the obvious implication here. So why would he not respond to you to dispel that allegation? He has a right. This person, still mad, goes on to say, MoistCritikal sits on Twitter all day, finds a topic that 90% of the platform agrees with, and makes a YouTube vid out of it without doing research. He is cancel culture itself. Maturing is realizing he's overrated. Bro, you are a Twitter clip farming account.
We had Fragile Turkey Tom going ahead and fighting a random Twitter user over the fact that the Twitter user was clouding on MoistCritikal. So Fragile Turkey Tom went ahead and defended MoistCritikal's honor for whatever reason, getting angry on Moist's behalf. And then less than 24 hours later, the hero that he was defending has this weird ass fucking Chris Tyson ass fucking take, bro. What is wrong with you? Fragile Tom, you gotta pick your battles better. But then again, you did look up to Big B, a other confirmed pedophile, while you were bitching about Pyrocynical, which is kind of weird and contradictory in itself, but we'll get to that at a later date. Now, I don't want to talk up this video too much. I think I got all the important stuff out of the way and gave you a little insight into a future video I'm going to be making. So let me know what you guys think. Are you going to back up Charlie even after having these really bizarre takes? Who do you think won this thing? Personally, I think it was down the middle. They both fucking suck and made really fucked up things and contradicted their own supposed principles of wanting to save the children and keep the children safe. Neither one of you made a take that would keep children safe at all. Though, again, this is a shit show that only benefited your radical fan bases on Sneako's end and on MoistCritikal end. Please don't reproduce, don't have any kids, because they'll end up really fucked.